You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
PackersTalk.com.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Miles Teddick, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans, love talking about the Pack. We're not getting into all the national sports media nonsense that they get distracted with. We're sticking to real football, diving into the top topics around the Pack every week, breaking down games during the season and sorting through now all the draft dreams and drama of the offseason. If y'all want to support the podcast, please spike that like button for us. Most importantly, jump on over to YouTube, type in Packers Talk Network, hit that subscribe button on our channel, and we will hopefully meet some new Packers fans because of you. So certainly love and appreciate all of our subscribers. You guys make a great deal of difference to us, and love hanging out with y'all every Monday night, getting live in the comments, having some fun. Usually bringing some good information along with you, sometimes breaking some news. That's always fun. So yeah, we got a little bit to get into here tonight. Sounds like some trade rumors are heating up again. Got to wonder what that's about. Is it fire? Is it smoke? We don't know. Let's talk about it though. And we got some fun draft prospects to talk about tonight. Tonight is the one that I've been looking forward to because I am biased for receivers. So we're going to go through the receivers. Again, not necessarily the top of the board, but definitely the ones that we think the Packers will be within reach of, and certainly guys that we think can have an impact early on. There's a lot of them. I see a few names here on Tim's list that I don't even have on my list, but probably could, would, should, if there weren't so many names. So we're going to hopefully get through as many as we can tonight. We're not going to go through the whole board or anything like that, but there's a lot of guys to talk about. There are a lot of fun to think about adding to this Packers offense. And then on to the other pass catchers. We're going to be talking about tight ends. Tight ends are also a lot of fun. This is an interesting class. I've got a few guys that I would love to see become Packers. I think just would be a lot of fun to think about next to Tucker Kraft and the rest of these pieces. So should be a fun episode. Even if you're not a Packers fan, just looking for some draft insights, we got them for you. We're bringing them. And first, we're taking care of some business, though. We are once again sponsored by Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as Bucks tickets, Brewers tickets, all them tickets. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. Remember, support all of those local businesses, Wisconsin and otherwise. Tim, good evening, sir. How are we doing?
Doing well, Miles. Hope you're doing well as well. It is full-on draft season for me. I don't know about you, but it's been quiet. There's not a ton of Packers news going on right now. So it's been nice to dive into a lot of these prospects because that's kind of what we have going on right now in the Packers world. Because there's nothing else going on with them. It's quiet time, but it's going to pick up a lot here with the next couple of weeks. But yeah, really getting into the draft prospects, learning more about them, seeing how they fit, who the Packer types are going to be in this draft, and focusing in as we do our previews up until the week of the draft. So yeah, it's been fun. It's there's guys catching up on, learning more about some names that I might have heard about but didn't know a whole lot about, and then getting familiar with names that I wasn't even familiar with previously to this time. So it's nice. It's full on draft season. And, I'm at the point where I'm sick of the mock drafts. I think I've seen enough mock drafts. I'm kind of like at that point. I don't need any more mock drafts, but there's going to be a million of them now in the next couple of weeks. But as far as like the research on it, it's been great. And shout out, we're not affiliated with them, but they're, kind of a big brother of ours, maybe in a way. And Cheesehead TV put out their draft guide last week. It's really good. So shout out Al and the whole gang over there. They did a great job with it and very informative and helpful. So pick that up. But yeah, it's draft season. There's not much going on in the Packers world. So let's get ready for the draft. And we're going to talk pass catchers tonight, which You got to be excited about it, former pass catcher yourself,
Yeah,
UW
man.
Oshkosh.
It's just there's something about that position that's a lot of fun to me. And it's funny because I'm the first one to stand up and be like, these receivers are getting paid too much money and they're not that important for winning a Super Bowl. So I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit of a like an like an anti receiver or two faced kind of guy. I don't know, but the position is important. It's not that it's not important. It's just that, like, how much weight does it have in winning a Super Bowl? I think is the question. And hey, there's always history to be made. Look, like everybody does something for the first time or does something as a anomaly instead of the average. Jerry Rice certainly contributed to the 49ers Super Bowls, no doubt about that. So you just never know when that next difference maker is going to come along and be kind of against the data. But yeah, the this is a fun class for the receivers. I think it's interesting to take in some of the other opinions around this class and how different they can be. Like to your point, the mock drafts are kind of wild. For me, the mock drafts almost serve as just like different data points. You kind of see where people are picking who just based on who they like, right? And obviously, we're not getting well, I mean, I'm sure maybe some GMs or some front office people are doing mock drafts on PFF, but it's anonymous. You wouldn't ever know about it. But um, point being is the ones that we see, it's just a bunch of fan perspective. There's some media folks that participate, and maybe that's worth a little bit more. But at the end of the day, you're not seeing the opinions of the coaches or the front office folks. You're really not getting true data. You're not getting a true look at who could go where. I think what you're getting though, you get the consensus and you compare that to other, performance in the draft. And so you're getting some good form of information, right? There's something there, but it's not all
Yeah.
right. So it's interesting. There's a lot of people declaring certain guys day 3 guys. And I'm just like, are you sure, man? Like, there's plenty of guys that look to me like they could go in round 2 or 3. And I hear them constantly described as day 3 guys. So I do think that there's some variance there, and I think there's room for fans to maybe overreact to a situation based on that. So all that to say, I've got some opinions, right, about this class. I'm excited about a few guys. I think that you know, it seems like the style of football now every year produces some pretty freaky receivers as far as athletes go or accomplished guys. I can't remember the last time, where you're looking at a class and you're like, this is just not a good group of receivers. Like it's just been year after year, man. So that said, it's kind of hard to be too hyperbolic about it, right? You don't want to just go off and use terms like generational too much or things like that. But the freak athletes out there in this class they're definitely eye popping. A couple of them, you see it on the film. Some of them you don't, and that's there's some interesting ones there for me that we'll get into where you got a freak athlete, you don't see it on the film. What's that about? Is that an upset waiting to happen, or is that somebody who has been in the wrong system, maybe didn't have a good quarterback, whatever it was? There's going to be reasons for all of this stuff. Even the overperformers, right? The guys that put up the gaudy numbers, got to get into it. So we're going beyond the mock drafts. We're going beyond the projections. I will say, and double shout out to the guys at Cheesehead for the draft guide. I have not looked at it yet. So if I say anything that sounds like I took it from the draft guide, I haven't seen it yet. So we just great minds think alike. Maybe I'll take future credit for that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many minds out there with the draft. It's hard not to kind of repeat certain things, and you
Right.
might not even know you're repeating it because there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of voices, which is good, I think, in a lot of ways. There's drawbacks to it as well, but yeah. So we're not reading off of anybody's draft guides or anybody's write ups or anything like that. These are our own thoughts on it, and I think you made a interesting point about the mock drafts and the consensus boards and stuff. Like, I think consensus board is valuable, especially as we get closer to the draft, because it has shown over time. Not always, it's not 100% accurate or anything like that, but it has shown a lot of value to where guys get picked, and then production from that as well. And the mock draft thing, yeah, there's just everybody has a million mock drafts. I don't know how you can do a mock draft, before a season even starts or during the season before you know who's drafting or or like what teams are drafting in which spots or what their needs are going to be, or even before free agency starts and teams start filling their needs. Like it's just crazy to me, all the mock drafts. But GMs have said it, and I think Goody has said it too, that they do look at some mock drafts, especially closer to the draft. And it's not so much to see like who's right or what but it's like they get some very small value, but some value from it just on a more like NFL level. Like they know what they think, but like, let's see how this writer thinks, like who the Patriots are going to pick or who the Saints are going to pick, because they're not as tuned in with that. And that might help them kind of understand like what those teams' needs are. And then that could affect, like if you're picking behind them or in front of them, it just from a strategy standpoint. So there is, some GMs, I think probably most teams, if not all teams, are looking at some of these mock drafts, but probably more so closer to the draft. And I don't think it really affects too much, but it gives them a little bit of background knowledge as far as what the teams are looking for.
Yeah, no, and I think it can be a way for identifying new prospects, right? So there are some names that start surfacing from smaller schools that you wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Ted Hurst is one that's getting kind of popular. We can talk a little bit about
That's
him
my
later.
guy.
I'm not quite as sold on Ted Hurst, so maybe we can have a good conversation about that. But yeah, so it is good for that, right? And the other thing is there are guys out there that at the very least are going back and watching highlights. Like it doesn't even have to be the all 22, right? You don't have to fully nerd out on it, but you're going back and you're watching to see what makes a guy good. It is one of the first things I'll do is I'll go look at a highlight. Like, what are you showing me that is like your best, that makes you what are your best features essentially? And then I like to go back and watch, sort of play by play. Like, what's this guy doing when he's not creating a highlight, And if you're getting just the opinions of somebody doing that, you're getting good information. It may not be that there's some sort of brilliant scout or anything like that, but you're getting somebody who has done more work than the average Joe at that point. That they've said, look, I'm going to go put my eyes on this and I'll tell you what I see. I could be wrong, but I've done this and I'll tell you what I see. And that's at the very least, it's a data point for you. But there's a lot of insight into that, I kind of catch that whenever I'm watching some of these different draft YouTube channels. There's some really good ones out there that do good draft profiles. And, you don't have to be some sort of seasoned scout or former Hall of Famer or anything like that. Like you just got to be a guy that goes back and puts your eyes on these guys and says, hey, here's what I see. And that can give you a lot of good information. So that's, I like to kind of hear that, that side of the market, if you will. But what we can do, and what I think, what we're trying to do is maybe consolidate a little bit of that, right? Like a lot of people don't even have the time to listen to all these different guys talk about it, right? They're just like, I'm just going to tune into a Packer podcast, catch a couple of the what's going on and get out, right? You're not out there trying to do your own draft homework. So I'll tell you who Steve Smith thought was awesome, right? I'll bring that to you, and I'll tell you that's who said it, right? It's not me. It's a former NFL receiver. So I was kind of thinking about that as we were going through this, or as I guess we were individually going through it. And like what value we add. I don't want you guys to think that we're just sort of a copy and paste type of information, right? Like we're gathering our own information here from multiple sources. Some of mine I pull from the Shrine Bowl because I spent time there. There was definitely a couple of guys there that are on the radar that we'll talk about tonight. So there's some firsthand information, but yeah. So real quick, before we do get too deep into things, I want to give a couple of our comments here. A shout out, Daryl, bringing some good energy tonight. Good evening, Miles and Tim. Good evening, Daryl. Good to see you, sir. Glad you're with us. We got you guys are already bringing some good names for the receivers here. I'll save those as we get moving through it. We got Chris the Casual Man. He's back. He's on the hot topic here. Dex Law or Jay Carter. Let's get down to business. Like, what are we doing? What's happening here? Is this smoke or is this fire, Tim?
I have no doubt that they've probably talked to the Giants about Dexter Lawrence, and they've talked to the Eagles about Jalen Carter. I think that's been out there as a rumor since, I don't know, combine or right around the combine start. Yeah, for a while. I have no doubt that they made those calls to check in and see what the price would be. I don't think it's a reality that it's actually going to happen, though. I know it came out today that Dexter Lawrence has requested a trade. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He wants to get paid more money. Like, that's what it is. He's turning 29 as well. He's coming off a down season, but still, you know, he was a damn good player. He had 3 or 4 years in a row with the Giants where he was really good. One of the best nose tackles, defensive tackles in football. Last year was a down year a little bit, but, you know, the whole team was down. I don't know if it's just him. I don't know if it's an aging thing. I don't want to speculate because I don't watch Dexter Lawrence close enough to know that. But personally, I still think he's a really good player. Now, acquiring him, you got to give up something. The Giants apparently don't want to trade him, but, you know, they also might put that out there because they want to drive up the price. Because if a team knows you're going to trade him, you're not going to get as much for him. You got to acquire him, and then you got to pay him. So those are two big things, and he's going to want to get paid at the top of the defensive tackle market. Like, there's no doubt. And then what do you give up to get him, especially when you don't have a first-round pick this year or next year? So then what does that look like? So I don't think it's something that's going to happen for Green Bay. I don't think it's a 0% chance, but I think it's a very, very small chance of that happening for the Packers. He might not get moved at all from the Giants. You know, they can work out an agreement later on. It just hasn't happened to this point. He wants to get paid there, like I said. That's the biggest reason that he wants out of New York, and maybe they're pony up and pay him enough and keep him there. But yeah, I think Green Bay's probably checked in to see what the price would be to acquire him. Maybe checked with the agent to see what the price would be to sign him if they were able to acquire him. I just wouldn't hold my breath about that actually happening. If it did, hell yeah. Like, there's your nose tackle. Like, forget it, him and Wyatt and Hargrave inside.
Put it this way.
Friggin' awesome.
Is there a different way you would prefer to spend pick number 52?
I mean, if pick number 52 gets you Dexter Lawrence, I'm all in on that.
So there's no better way to spend 52 than on Dexter Lawrence, in your opinion?
I mean, you know what Dexter Lawrence is. You don't know what pick 52 is going to be. Whoever you choose, whether that's another defensive tackle, whether that's a corner, offensive lineman, receiver, whatever position they decide to choose. Could that player be of better value and be a better player than Lawrence for the next 4 years of his contract? Maybe. Maybe not. I mean, are you real confident that at pick 52 you're going to get a better player than Dexter Lawrence? And I know we're not talking about what Dexter Lawrence has done the previous time in his career.
Right. It's got to be what you get.
Right. The next 2 to 3 years of Dexter Lawrence, because you're going to have to pay him. So whatever that contract is going to look like, maybe you're just, adding on it, but you're at least making a 2-year commitment to him. Possibly more than that, where, it's going to mess up your cap and dead money and you wouldn't get rid of him. But it's a 2 to 3 year commitment at least. Is he going to be better than what you're going to get from a rookie? Obviously, the rookies can be much cheaper, right? So there's that impact. But is that player that you're taking at 52 going to develop and be better than what Dexter Lawrence is for the next 2 to 3 years? That's the question. That's the gamble. Maybe that rookie would be better. Maybe that's the better investment for you. If it's me, and this is why I'm not a GM or shouldn't be a GM, but I don't know if I want to go and bet that pick 52, player TBD is going to be better than Dexter Lawrence. I think I take my shot on Dexter. But where it gets complicated is you got to pay him. And you're already paying Micah Parsons. You're paying Jordan Love. You want to pay Tucker Kraft. You probably want to pay Christian Watson. You're paying Zach Tom a lot of money. Like, Xavier McKinney is going to be due for a new contract. And I think they're going to pay him. Like, it starts adding up. How many of these guys can you pay? Right. And that's where it's, as Ted Thompson used to say, it's not fantasy football. right? So that's the other complicated factor. So weighing all that in, yeah, it would be hard for me to say no to Dexter Lawrence for pick 52, right? Like I think he's a damn good player. I've seen what he can be. I don't know what pick 52 can be, but there's a lot more that weighs into it.
For sure. And I think that if they didn't already have some of that calculation figured out, they wouldn't even be making the phone call, right? Like you got to trust that Russ Ball has already been on the spreadsheet going, all right, guys, here's what the next few years look like. Here's what this guy's going to want. This is what the top of the market looks like. Are you going to be able to give him what he wants? And so we don't know the gymnastics that they can do with the cap. They've been pretty good at it at this point. So I got to trust that they've checked that box once they're already making the phone call. That's at least the way I think about it. The way I look at it, I don't think you can spend pick 52 better than one of the top defensive tackles in the league. I don't think you can do it, and again, kind of the same energy as the finance side, like the scouting side. If you guys are making the phone call, you've looked at this guy, you've watched his film, you've done your due diligence, and you believe that at the very least he's still just as good as he ever was, if not has the potential to continue to get better, or you're not making the phone call. Like if you believe that there's already potential for a decline or, whatever it may be, I just think you're not making the phone call at that point. So those are the two boxes in my head that I assume and I check just to say, like, they've already said that this is what they think and I trust them. So, yeah, at that point, you're making the phone call because you believe that you can afford the guy and you believe his best football is either here or still in front of him. I don't think there's a better way to spend pick 52. I really don't. And, yeah, it will take more than 52, but essentially this year it's 52, a player, and probably a third next year. That's what I would imagine the package to be like. And probably maybe two players.
Well,
maybe two players. I think one, but again, you can't get too heavy on the trade compensation because you still have to pay him. So it's a similar situation to Micah Parsons, where it's like, look, Micah Parsons is worth more than 2 first-round picks and a Kenny Clark, but you also got to pay him an assload of money, and there's nobody else lining up with that kind of capital that they're willing and able to give you right now and also able to pay him. It's a unique combination. So I think it could end up being a similar thing where it's like, how many teams are there that can actually pony up some capital that the Giants think is worthy and also pay the player? I think that list is probably pretty short. And at that point, then you get into the bidding war of who believes he's worth what and whatever. I don't think the Packers will overpay for a guy like Lawrence. I don't think they feel pressured in this situation to have a guy like that. I think a guy like that being available is like, oh, really? Your ears kind of perk up, but I don't know that the Packers were the ones that were out there hunting for that. That's not what that seems like to me. And probably the same thing with the Jalen Carter situation. I think it's one of those where it's like, we can pay the player and we got this trade capital, and if you want it, we'll do it. But we're not going to get into a bidding war. We're not going to go overpay or overspend on the trade because we don't have to, right? Like if you start the season today with the line that you got, it's not the best in the league, but it's not bad. Hargrave is a great addition. You got Wyatt back. Yeah. You got, like there's guys there. You're all right. So yeah, I think they put themselves in a good flexible position with it. So yeah, that's the fun speculative part. Just kind of going full circle on smoke or fire. I think it's draft smoke. I think we're in the fog of war of draft season. You're leading right up to it. Everybody's trying to manipulate each other. And I just think it's smoke. I give this a very, very low percentage of being real as far as like actually happening. I'm sure there's conversations, but I don't think that any actual.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think it's possible Dexter Lawrence gets traded. I just don't think it's going to be to the Packers. But I have no doubt. I shouldn't say I have no doubt. I mean, I'm fairly confident that they at least at some point this offseason checked in. That was a rumor a while ago.
For sure. Yeah.
I believe it. But it probably was one of those, hey, we hear he wants to get paid. What would it cost? And the Giants either said, we're not moving him, or, we want 2 first-round picks. And the Packers said, okay, nice talking to you. And that was it. Like, I don't think it got very far at all. And I know the Jalen Carter stuff was out there too. Obviously, he's still an Eagle. That's kind of died down. I don't think they're moving him at all. And he's got to cost more than Lawrence because he's younger, and right now he's a better player than Lawrence is. But I don't think they're going to move him anyway. And I think the Packers checked in with the Eagles again on Carter, knowing that Carter's coming up on a contract. Jordan Davis has now gotten paid by the Eagles. And it was probably the same thing. And you're not going to – Howie Roseman's a good GM. You're not going to pull one over on him and say, yeah, well, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick and some cheese curds. What do you think for Jalen Carter? And, he's going to want multiple picks or, some damn good players. This isn't Jerry Jones you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I don't think those conversations got far. And, Lawrence may get moved and he may get paid somewhere else, or he may get paid by the Giants, but I don't think it's happening in Green Bay. It would be cool if it did, depending on what the price is to acquire him and sign him. I can't see a team giving up a 1st-round pick for where he is in his career, because he is about to turn 29 off a down year, and you're going to pay him. So maybe it's not a 1st-round pick, which would help Green Bay because they don't have one the next 2 years. But whatever that is, I don't think they're going to be able to get it done. And maybe they're not, they're going to have their price for what they want to, A, paying compensation to the Giants, and then B, paying compensation to Lawrence. And I don't think it's going to work out. But it's a nice rumor.
Yeah, it's a nice rumor. Now, something else that's not a rumor and maybe is breaking news for some of our listeners here, Javon Bullard changing his number to number 7. So for those of you who don't understand what this means he's going to have an all-pro season. It's going to happen because it's just an awesome look. Like, there's not going to be a better looking safety in the league than this dude. So I'm just throwing that out there. No, I don't mean to make that weird either. It's just like, you guys get what I'm talking about. Certain players they got that look. And like, I think Sean Taylor was one, the late great Sean Taylor. He was one of those that just like oozed football player. Javon Bullard is up there, man. Like, he is just like, he's got that football player look. Changing to number 7 now, just like, oh, I'm very excited about this. Tim, are you excited about this?
Yeah, sure. It's a new number. Cool. But I like his comments more that he made about the rivalry with the Bears, that he hates the Bears and he hates their coach. And it's a rivalry. He's fired up about it. So that I like that more. And yeah, sure, change your number. I hope it works out for you better than number 7 worked out for Quay Walker. Yeah, but I like his I like his mentality. That's what I'm happy about.
Well, I absolutely love his mentality. I love his comments that he made. And shout out to Go Long, their article that they did with him. They nailed it. And just my comments were lifetime contract. Like, make this guy a coach after he's done playing. Keep him in Green Bay, because you want that mentality in the room all the time. So I'm very excited about Javon Bullard. Just awesome football player, awesome Packer. Seems like he really carries the G hard. So yeah. Very, very excited. And then Chris, it's all right, man. He says, I'm upset. I bought a green 20, damn it. Dude, that's going to be like vintage, man. Like, that's going to be worth something because you got the OG jersey, man. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. You got the original. But yeah, so Bullard changing to number 7. Love it. I think he's going to have an all-pro season because of it, and also because he's just a beast in general. Now, let's have some fun here. Where do you want us to do? Would you rather start with tight ends or receivers?
We'll start receivers.
Okay. We'll get into the receivers here. Let's just jump right into it. I've got my list of guys that I can give you a little bit more notes on, but my just general thoughts on this class. It's an interesting class. I'm very glad that the Packers aren't in a position to need to take from the top of the class of this receiver class. Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson. Those are the three that people are arguing about who's receiver one. They're good receivers. I'm not here to like knock them. It's just like they're basically your stereotypical NFL receiver, right? Like, and they're good, but are they upper echelon receivers? I don't know. Maybe. I think that has a lot more to do with what's going on between the ears. So I didn't spend a lot of time on those guys. They're good receivers, like great for whoever's drafting them. I'm kind of glad the Packers aren't in that position because I just don't know how much better they are than these other guys that we're going to talk about that the Packers will be in position to draft. And we can get into it. I'm not necessarily right, just opinionated. So that is what it is.
No,
but
no, I was just going to say, I'm with you. Like, I didn't spend much time because they're not going to be in a position to get him anyway. I like Carnell Tate. He's from the Ohio State factory of receivers. They have one every year. He'll be good in the NFL just because he's from there and he was developed there. But like, yeah, I don't love any of those guys, and that's fine because they're going to be gone. And yeah, it's an interesting class, like you said. There's a bunch that are going to go in the first round or first half of the second round too, where I guess I'm fine with them not having any of those guys or needing to take one of those guys. It's like, okay. But I think there's also a group of guys in the mid rounds that are going to be interesting, and that could be where they grab one.
Yeah, I agree. And that's actually where you see a little bit more of the kind of outlier athletes and outlier size guys. The top of your board is that like 6 foot ish, 200 ish type guy. Carnell Tate's 6'3", he's a little taller, was right around 200. They're a very NFL prototype. Like it is what it is. They're textbook NFL guys. They'll be good, but how much better will they be than somebody who you could get a value pick on? So yeah, I'm not necessarily interested in breaking down all those guys. I'll start with, man, it's hard to think about. Let me pull up my list here. It's hard to think about where I want to start because I don't know if I want to necessarily go in order.
You pull up your list, but I'll just start with the quick like Packer overview of it. They took a receiver in the first round last year, took a receiver in the third round, so it doesn't scream position of need, but there's only 2 guys right now in that room that are signed past 2026, and that's Matthew Golden, Savion Williams. Everyone else is a free agent. And I know there's all this talk about Christian Watson extension. They say they want to get him done. I think eventually they will, but like until that's done, he's a free agent. Wicks and Reed are free agents. Sky Moore, count him as a receiver. He's going to be a return guy, but he only signed a 1-year deal. So looking ahead, it's definitely a position of need. And we know the Packers aren't drafting most of the time. They're looking ahead. They're not drafting like immediately what they need today. Like, oh, okay, we have 5 or 6 receivers. We're good there. It's like they look at the draft as developmental, which it should be and which it is. So you're going to look ahead and be like, wow, our receiver room empties out after 2026. So if you sign Watson, does that leave you enough money, or even do they want to then re-sign Wicks or Reed? They may not. But if you're talking to Watson and you just think you're not going to be able to get it done, then maybe you turn to Wicks or Reed and try to get one or both of those guys signed. So I would think out of the 3, they're at least keeping 1, maybe 2, but they're certainly not going to keep all 3. And then you have Golden, you have Savion Williams. But yeah, it's maybe not an immediate need, but they're going to have to start restocking that room at some point. And let's say you keep Watson, you have Golden, you have Williams. Maybe you keep Reed, but I don't know. If you don't, then you're going to need a guy. So yeah, they're going to have to start restocking that position at some point. Wouldn't surprise me if they took somebody in the draft. I'd be a little surprised if they took somebody at 52, but anywhere from third round on, it wouldn't shock me at all if they took somebody. And I think they are going to take a receiver in this draft. It's just a matter of how soon, right? But not an immediate position to need at receiver, but something down the line that is definitely going to need addressing over the next year or 2.
Well, and that's typically, it seems like that's how they draft with some exception, right? There's some times where they've drafted and they need that immediate contribution, but for the most part, they're drafting with a few years ahead in mind. So yeah, that's where I wouldn't be surprised either about a receiver, even as early as I wouldn't be surprised with the second pick. It depends on who it is and who else is available there. There's gonna be a lot of talent available at 52. So you may not have a receiver as BPA at that point, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did, and that's just kind of the way they go. I'm not rooting for that. I'll say that. I think third round on would be great. There's plenty of great value in third round on, and there's other great value to grab in that second round outside of the receiver position, even considering years down the road. So yeah, I don't think I'd be pumped about it, but I wouldn't be surprised by it. So yeah, all right, let's jump in here. Again, don't have time to just cover all of this ground, but the guys that I'm going to cover are the ones that stood out to me that make the most sense from, the different Packer parameters that we have, the raw scores and just certain size data from history. And what do you need, right? I mean, at this point, you only need so many 6 foot-ish, 200-pound-ish guys like that run a 4.5. They're all good. Right. But you don't need 6 of them. Right. You need different skill sets and different size guys, different athletes. So that's where I started looking at this. Like the Packers have Wicks, they have Reed, they have Golden, they have that kind of stereotypical receiver size, fast dude. And then you've got Christian Watson, who's obviously very big. Wicks is, pretty much the same. He's about 6'1", I think, 200 something. So yeah, you have that guy. I don't think you just need another one of those guys. So I'm looking at this like who is going to be too tempting for them to pass up, right? And that's where you get into some of the freakier athletes, maybe some size guys. And I know one guy that's been kind of popular is Bryce Lance, North Dakota State. I've seen him in a lot of mock drafts. I've seen a wide variance for him as far as projection goes. I've seen some interesting criticisms of him that I don't know if I agree with, but I haven't watched enough film to disagree. But what I've watched of him, first of all, freak athlete. Let's go over the basic info. He's got a 4.3 440. He's got the 1.49 10 split, so that's very fast acceleration. 41.5 vert, just massive explosion, and an 11.1 broad. Again, massive explosion. So very, very explosive athlete in general. Very fast. It shows up on tape. And I get it. He's at North Dakota State. Competition is lower. We went through the same thing with Christian Watson whenever he was coming out. It's like, yeah, but watch this guy. He's not as big as Christian Watson, right? He's only 6'3", 204, 210, somewhere in there. So he's not quite as big as Christian Watson, but his speed jumps off the tape, man. He looks like runs by people. His style is very much like Christian Watson. He doesn't have the same size. But he just flies past guys. His speed, I don't think it's properly captured with a 4.3 40. Like I think you need to give that guy a 60 to see exactly where his top speed might be. Because when just watching on the tape, he just flies past you. I can't say it enough. He flies past them. And there were times where he got underthrown, and if he didn't, it would have just been even more amazing. He makes good contested catches. I'll say this, he shows on film that he can do a lot. The question for him is, can he do it consistently, and can he polish his game a little bit more? He needs to polish his route running. He needs some of that NFL coaching. And it'd be interesting to see what he did with a quarterback who's a little bit more equipped to throw to a freak athlete like that. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to ask, do you think he can beat press coverage in the NFL? It's different doing it at North Dakota State. I mean, great program, but division.
Yes, because I believe press coverage can be coached. You can coach that. You don't need just uncoachable abilities to beat press coverage in the NFL. You just need kind of a chess mindset. Like, he's got a set of moves. You've got a set of moves. You got to use the right ones. It's almost kind of like trying to beat a pitcher, right? Like, what's he going to throw at you? And are you right or wrong? So yeah, I think that he can be coached into that. I don't think that that's something that will hold him back too much. His frame is kind of more slender. He's not like a wide body type guy. That's where I say like his size is definitely smaller than Christian Watson. He's not a small guy, but his frame is more slender. I think he could use that to his advantage. And he's a freak athlete the way he is. If you're playing the DB the right way, he shouldn't be able, like the size of your frame shouldn't matter. You know what I mean? Like you should be able to outmaneuver him. If a DB is getting into your chest where the size of your frame is going to matter, you lost. Like you already did wrong. So that's where it's like if he's getting jammed in press coverage and he's not able to contribute because of that maybe for a little bit that's on him, but that's got to be coached out of him, and it can be like that's watching film, that's watching. Unfortunately, he's got other guys in the room he can watch that are pretty good at it. Wicks being one of them, but they've also probably got some film that they're still showing of Devontae Adams in that room. So yeah, you can definitely work on that. My question really is kind of, it comes down to how does he transition to the NFL from North Dakota State? Like what is it that's going to be his welcome to the NFL moment? Is it, the amount of the complexity of the playbook? I mean, again, he's a freak athlete. He's got great size. It's not elite size, but I mean, 6'3", 210 is not bad. That's pretty good. He's not a small guy. So I think it really comes down to what goes on between the years, man. Like, is he ready to take on this as a professional job and win the chess match against DBs? And if he is, dude's gonna fly. I mean, his speed shows up, and there are other guys that it doesn't. The reason that I keep repeating this is because it's true, right? It's like legitimately you watch it and you just see the speed every time. There's other guys where they've actually got a better 40 than him, and you go watch the tape, and you're just like, I just don't see it. I don't see a 4.31. And it's not to say that guy's a bad athlete. We'll get there. But point being, Bryce Lance, freak athlete. It depends on who values what, right? So like if Al Davis were alive, that dude's not getting out of the second round. Right? Probably wouldn't get out of the first round depending on, the Raiders picks, but they're obviously going to go Mendoza first overall. You can't go Bryce Lance first overall. But they would absolutely overdraft Bryce Lance, the Al Davis Raiders. There are probably other front offices out there that have a high value on freakish athletic ability like that. So that's where probably people are projecting him to not get out of the second round. I do think he's probably more of a third round guy just because you don't see the physical dominance from him that you saw from Christian Watson. Like Christian Watson, when he was coming out of North Dakota State, yeah, you had the question of, has he faced good enough competition and what's it going to be like when he does? But his physical presence was just undoubtable. I mean, it's 6'5", it's 2 inches taller than Lance, and I think he was 215. So you're a few pounds heavier. Like he's thicker. He's like a wider body than Lance. That's where to me, like it didn't matter as much with Lance. I do want to see how he maneuvers against DBs. That's what it comes down to. So, I ultimately would love to see him in the Packers offense. I think that would be awesome. I think wherever they end up drafting him, we're pumped about it. I'll say that. How about that?
Works for me. I like him. I think he's a good player. Size, speed, can hit deep. He's going to be a home run hitter. Definitely needs to refine his route running and show that he can run a fuller route tree than what he ran at North Dakota State. But highly productive, big-time ball skills, ability to just fly by secondaries and win deep. So, yeah, I can see the Christian Watson comparisons. I think they're a little bit different. And as you hit on, he's not quite as big as Watson is, though he's not small by any means at all. But I think Watson was further along as an overall receiver coming out of North Dakota State than what Lance is. But, yeah, he's got a ton of potential. He's just – when you get to the NFL, it's a lot different beating bigger, more physical corners and winning consistently downfield. Like he's going to have to win in more ways than just being a deep threat. So can he do that is the question. But certainly a freak athlete and highly productive on an offense that is more of a run heavy offense than a wide open throw it all over the field offense like a lot of the college offenses are. But yeah, I like him.
Yeah, that's the other question I have is he gets into an NFL offense. What does that look like? Because they'll know, well, maybe I shouldn't get ahead of myself. Maybe they won't know how to use them. Some offenses don't know how to use the guys they have,
Yeah.
or they choose not to. But no, it'll be interesting to see how he does there. I'm again, if the Packers take him, we're pumped about it. He had 17 touchdowns last season. The guy has dominated college football for 2 seasons. Yes, he's done it at a small level, but man, like just watching the plays, he can make difficult catches too. I saw several difficult catches he made. So it's not just like all of his catches are just dropped in his lap, 10 yards ahead of a DB. He definitely has made some contested catches. And yeah, you're right. He needs polish on his route tree. I still have seen enough versatility in what he does to think that he can polish his route tree. So anyway, it's not the Bryce Lance show, but he is definitely one to keep an eye on. Next one that I've got on my list is Malachi Fields. Malachi Fields is one that I started looking at this. I almost skipped over his name because I just haven't heard a whole lot from Packerland about wanting Malachi Fields. So, and I'm like, all right, well, I got to at least look. Let's see what's going on here. He's a big receiver, right? He's 6'4", 218, I think is what the NFL had him at. One thing that jumped off the page at me, he only had one drop last season for 2.7% drop rate, which is the lowest of the guys that I looked at. So that was impressive to me. His biggest knock is he's not the super athlete that some of these other guys are. He's got a 6'1", 140, a 6'3", 10 split. So he's, in today's terms, I mean, that's considered slow. So was Jerry Rice. So we'll just leave that there. But it made sense to me there why he may be not as high on some of these boards. 38-inch vertical, great, especially at 6'4". Dude's going to get up. He's going to get up higher than a lot of DBs. But when I went and watched, man, it's hard not to like Malachi Fields. Like, I like this guy. He's a bully. He uses his size very well. He makes himself a big target, and he does make great contested catches. He's got some spectacular highlights. Some of the catches he's made are really, really phenomenal. So his biggest thing is he's not a burner, but he finds ways to get open. Let's remind ourselves, Travis Kelce's still out there getting open in the NFL, right? He's probably running like a 5.40 at this point. That guy's not fast by any stretch of the imagination. So you can get open in the NFL without running a 4.3 40. He's one that I would be really intrigued by because you've got speed in the offense, but this is another guy that's just got that big presence that can be a big target in the end zone. He can take attention away from Tucker Kraft and Christian Watson. You have to pay attention to him. He almost kind of his style almost reminds me of James Jones. And I think he's a more impressive athlete than James Jones was, but James Jones was really good at using his size, and he led the league in touchdowns one season because of it. He's good at getting open in the end zone. So that's one that he really jumped off the page to me. Did you get to look at Malachi Fields at all?
Yeah, a little bit. And just real quick, he's big, he's physical. I think he'd be really good blocking for them. And Green Bay loves blocking receivers.
They do.
I think he's a better, if you want like a Packer receiver comparison, like he's kind of like Allen Lazard, but definitely better than Allen Lazard coming out of college. But that's kind of like Lazard wasn't fast, obviously, but he was big, he was physical, he'd block his ass off. He was reliable for the most part, but nothing like spectacular. And, he's not going to get a ton of separation. Probably not a whole lot of run after the catch, but he's one of those physical dudes that can probably win over the middle and win outside a little bit on jump balls or back shoulder or whatever, and kind of an all-around guy. So, yeah, probably Matt LaFleur looks at his film and gets real excited because he likes those big physical guys that can block for you. The testing numbers definitely are not what the Packers usually look for, though, with that kind of guy. But I think if you're taking him on the third day or something like that, I think there's a role for him in the offense. He's never going to be, a number one or probably even a number 2 receiver or anything like that, but he's a utility receiver that can do different things for you.
Yeah, no, I like having that bully receiver in there, man. I miss that from Malik Heath. And he's a similar size to Malik Heath as well, I think. So the next guy on my list is Elijah Surratt. Now I've got a soft spot for national champions, man. You go off and you win a championship. I want a piece of that recipe. What is it? Like, bring your wisdom into my locker room. What did you do to win? And Elijah Surratt was interesting because, again, he's one of those that I don't think it's not that he's been underrated or anything like that. I just don't think he's as highly rated as he could be. And he actually might be higher on some draft boards than maybe the consensus thinks he should be. But he's another guy that's not a stunning athlete, right? Like, you're not blown away by how fast he is. I think he did run a 4.5 at his pro day, which is not slow, but it's sort of average. But even on the tape, we turn the tape on, he's not running past guys. He's not just tearing down the field. I think one of his long touchdowns that he had was against Iowa, and a linebacker almost caught him. Like a linebacker was gaining. I shouldn't say almost caught him, but he was gaining ground on him. So, he's not a burner, and I think that's one of the things that maybe will drop him down some boards that would prefer that athleticism. But again, let's remind ourselves, he's a national champion, and he contributed to this national championship team in a pretty big way. He was, again, shout out. I said, I kind of brought Steve Smith up into this. I think Steve Smith said that he was receiver 1 for Indiana. Steve Smith believed that Surratt was receiver 1. And the reason I say that is because I know that a lot of folks like Omar Cooper Jr. As like a first rounder, that seem to prefer him over Surratt quite a bit, probably because of the athleticism thing. But when you just look at like what the guy did on the field, he had 65 catches, 830 yards, and 15 touchdowns. He scored a touchdown in every game but 3. Like, that's something, man. Like, when you're scoring at that kind of clip, like that's actually like impressive if you were a running back. Like, running backs get those goal line touches because you're going to score more touchdowns in more games. That's just super impressive for a receiver to have that kind of consistent touchdown contribution. So I'm a big fan.
Back shoulder.
Yes, that's
a lot of back shoulder catches.
I was just
Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson would have loved him. He would have fit in with that team.
I was just about to bring that up, and that's where we were talking about watching film. I think if you're a Packers scout, it'd be hard not to like this guy because of that. Like, you've seen how good those guys who are good at the back shoulder can be. If you and again, we're old enough to remember the Jordy Nelson days, and Devontae Adams was really good at the back shoulder too. But yeah, he is excellent at the back shoulder. And I think really what that is, it's easy to see it in that one play, but what he's really good at is finding space, and he's good at adjusting to the ball once it's thrown. Now, that's something that's a very it's less talked about, I guess, is the best way to put it. Not many people are talking about how a guy adjusts to the ball once it's in the air, and that's really important. That's something that actually a guy who was really good at that was Antonio Brown. One of the reasons Antonio Brown was great at his peak in the NFL was because when the ball was in the air, he knew how to manipulate the DB into getting the right position so he could make the catch. And it was like art watching him in his prime. And here's, again, we're talking about a guy who's not necessarily athletic. Antonio Brown wasn't, big or fast or anything like that. He's just a good athlete. He was kind of a smaller guy. But when he was the best in the league for a little bit. And when he was great, he was great. And you just could not beat him. And the real X factor was for him was manipulating the DB when the ball's in the air. Surratt's really good at it. He is really good at it. So that's one of those that's kind of like instincts or vision for a running back. You can't really coach that. It's not easy to coach. If you can coach it, you're a great coach. You've got great instincts too. It's tough because it's such a body feeling thing. So that's one of the, he really jumps out to me. If you're able, the Packers end up taking him, we're excited about it. We may not be pumped about him as the athlete, but we got to be excited about the reliability of that player. When you need somebody to catch that ball on 3rd or 4th down, that's your guy. And it's because of how good he is at manipulating the DB when the ball's in the air and how reliable he is. His drops aren't as impressive as Malachi Fields. He's got 3 drops for a 4.5% drop rate, which is actually still pretty good. Not bad at all. 3 drops in the whole season. Very reliable target. And again, receiver 1-2 on a national championship team. Like that's something. Definitely something. I'm a big fan of Surratt. And I see the comments. Not Cooper. What? I know it. Well, first of all, it sounds like Cooper's going to go before the Packers are picking. But Tim, have you gotten to see Surratt? What do you think? Surratt versus Cooper? Yeah, I mean, you got to like both of them. They're both very impressive receivers.
Yeah, I mean, Surratt's like the bigger, more outside receiver. Won a lot of jump balls. I don't see him getting a ton of separation. That concerns me. He's not the athlete that Cooper is. So, like, it's one thing to catch all the back shoulder plays and stuff at the college level, but can you separate and do that in the NFL? Because that's what's really going to determine it for. Like, you can only catch so many back shoulder throws or fades or whatever. Like, eventually teams are going to take that away. So can he win in more ways? But yeah, he was productive. He seemed like he was more so their go-to guy. Now Cooper missed some time and then came back, he made some big plays for him. Game-winning touchdown at the end of the Penn State game. I like them both receivers. I can see why Cooper's more highly rated just because he's a better athlete. I think he's got more stuff that translates to the NFL, but I don't think there should be a huge gap between them. I think they should, from what I've seen on some of these boards and mock drafts, like I think they should be a lot closer as far as how they're stacked. But yeah, I like them both, and they had a hell of a team and a hell of a quarterback throwing to them too. It depends on what you're looking for, I think, at receiver, like when it comes to those two.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And that's where it's like some boards may have him much lower because he's not the athlete, and some boards may have him much higher because of those intangibles that I was talking about. So it is very difficult to predict. But again, if the Packers draft him, I think we're pumped about it because I do think that he brings something to the room. Not necessarily it's not even there, but it's a very good, reliable contribution, right? It's again,
Sure.
Some of these guys, if they're not a home run, they're not going to give you much, and a guy like Surratt, he's going to be one of those that's just reliable as the day is long. And I don't know that you have that like go-to possession type guy right now. Hopefully you do in Christian Watson or Golden. Hopefully you do and go down the list, but yeah, I just don't know. So I like Surratt, big fan. Next one on the list, and this one's I'm kind of conflicted here on this guy, but Skylar Bell. So I know he's kind of popular. He's kind of bumped up and down lists. He was at the Shrine Bowl. Didn't get to see much of him because he didn't play in the game, but man, talk about an accomplished guy. 1,278 yards, 13 touchdowns last season, finalist for the Blitnikoff Award. Very, very polished guy. And the thing that I saw with Skylar Bell was he has great separating ability. So when he catches the ball, he immediately starts creating separation from the defense. And it's not just with speed, it's with vision. He's a great ball carrier. But I wonder what I kind of wonder how high his potential is. I wonder, I wonder how much more he can grow in the NFL. He's a great athlete, 4.4 40, 1.53, 10 split, so good acceleration. He's got a 41 vertical and an 11.1 broad, both great explosion measurements there. So he's a very explosive athlete. He's, I hate to use the term poor man's, but he's like a poor man's Jamar Chase, right? He's a great athlete when he's got the ball in his hands, great ball carrier, could probably be a running back in a different life. but I didn't get to watch enough of him to think like, ooh, this guy, he brings this thing that you don't have. I think if you need to replace one of your smaller body guys, he can do it, right? So if you're replacing Dontavian Wicks, he's a little bit smaller than Wicks. I think Wicks is like 6'1", 205. He's 6 foot 192. Similar skill set though, right? Separation ability, route runner. And yeah, so like for me, he's a guy I could see them taking, but I couldn't find a specific reason to be excited about him, if that's fair.
Yeah, I get it. I think he would be the replacement for Jaden Reed. Like if you know you're not committing to Jaden Reed long term, Skylar Bell could be that guy. Like he's probably a slot, though. That's the question. Like, can he win outside? But teams run so many reduced formations now. Like he might not have to line up outside very much, and when he does, it might be in a reduced formation. So is it really that big of a deal? But he could be viewed as the replacement for Reed either soon if they decide to move on from Reed in the trade or something like that, or the guy that's behind Reed, and then Reed moves on after the season in free agency, and Skylar Bell's your next slot receiver. I kind of liked him. He's sudden, like he can get open quick, and when you get the ball in his hands, he make things happen. Their production was huge at UConn. I don't know what the hell the Badgers were doing because he was in Wisconsin and they didn't make any use of him, and he goes to UConn and lights it up. And
it's not
didn't
the first
have
time that's happened in recent memory. So
yeah,
get it together, Badgers.
Yeah. But he goes to, like he didn't have a quarterback there. There's nobody else on that offense. Like we were just talking about Surratt, there's Cooper, and he's got the number 1 overall pick. He's got some offensive linemen that are going to be drafted. He's got a running back that's probably going to be drafted.
Good, yeah.
Yeah. And UConn's got Skylar Bell, and that was it. And he still was best player on that team, best player in the field, and he was playing. So highly productive. It's just, is he only a slot guy? And is in the NFL against NFL corners, can he win the 50-50 balls? Can he consistently get open in the NFL and do something with it? So yeah, those are concerns, but he was one of those guys that he's intriguing for me. Certainly wouldn't take him in the second round. I don't know if I'd even be comfortable taking him in the third round, but as we get into day 3, sure, I think there's something there to work with. But if the Packers took him, I think that probably spells the end for Jaden Reed at some point, whether that's in 2026 or after the season. So, but it also wouldn't hurt to have a ready-made replacement like that on hand.
Yeah, and I think that's where the Packers are probably just trying to give themselves the most flexibility, to see like who comes to them in the draft. Where is it that you're even willing to draft at that position, and who's there at the time, and who can you not pass up? And we've hit a few names already, and all of them are very different type of guys. The next one that I've got on my list here is Jeff Caldwell out of Cincinnati. Now, this is one that is very puzzling to me, and it seems like the potential is as high as it gets. So let's just read off his combine stats here. He's got a 4.3 140, which is faster than Bryce Lance, a 1.48 10-yard split, which is also faster than Bryce Lance, a 42-inch vertical, and an 11.2 broad. All of those metrics better than Bryce Lance. So he's off the charts athletically. He was at the Shrine Bowl. Now, at the time of being at the Shrine Bowl, we didn't have these measurables, right? You didn't have the combine, you didn't have pro day stuff. So it was hard to know who the freakish athletes were. You can see some of it right on the field. It does come out, but you can't always tell who's running what. And Caldwell's in that for me. His speed doesn't necessarily show up on the field for me. And I will say, I was looking for it when I'm watching what I could on YouTube of Cincinnati. I don't think it's his fault. I just think that's the style of their offense. I don't think they used him the way you could a speed freak like that. But he's 6'5", 215. So if there's somebody you want to compare to Christian Watson, there's your guy. I mean, they're very physically close together. And size wise too. He's kind of a big body type dude. So you got a very Christian Watson like athlete here, but nowhere near the production. And he's at Cincinnati. He's only there for a year. Before that, I'm gonna get this wrong. Hang on a second, guys. I'll get this right. But anyway, he was only there for a year. So you also kind of wonder, like, how well did he fit in? Right? Did he fit into the offense? Did he, did they even know how to use a guy like that? So there's a lot of questions that I have about Jeff Caldwell. But when you're putting up those types of numbers as an athlete, like, you can't ignore it. That the size and the speed, you just cannot ignore that. So that's something to me. He's one to keep an eye on. I'm looking up here where we got Lindenwood. That's right. That's why I couldn't remember it. It wasn't.
That's right.
Yeah, there it is. Lindenwood.
How could you not remember Lindenwood?
I know. How could we not? But so at Lindenwood, it looks, just the grades that he's got. I don't have his stats pulled up. It looks like he did pretty well. He played well there, and then he went to Cincinnati. It's not even that he did bad at Cincinnati. He just didn't jump off the page at you, right? He's got 32 catches for 478 yards and 6 touchdowns. So it's not like he had a terrible season, but he's no Skylar Bell with the 1,200, almost 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, that kind of thing. So you do kind of wonder, where is the production? I think some of the film that you see, I don't know who the quarterback for Cincinnati was, but it wasn't great. So there's a lot there that you got to wonder about how they used him and where his potential could be. But if you can get a Jeff Caldwell on day 3, man, that's some fun. Like, we're high-fiving at that point. That's a lot of fun, because again, physically, athletically, you're adding a copy-paste Christian Watson. It's not the same football player. Christian Watson is a high football IQ, very productive football player. Not the same. Doesn't mean you can't have some fun with the athleticism and the size on the field at the same time. And I trust that Matt LaFleur would know how to do that. So Jeff Caldwell was one of my last ones here to call out. I know we've gone deep and we still want to touch on the tight ends. But these are just some names that are out there that are, I don't think necessarily showing up on all of the mock drafts and all of that, but names that I do think could be very relevant to the Packers come, day 2, day 3 of the draft. And we already talked about Ted Hurst a little bit. He's another one that's on here. And maybe Tim, you can give me your thoughts on Ted Hurst, but real quick, his athletic profile, he's got a 4.42 40, a 1.55 10 split, a 36.5-inch vertical, and an 11.3 broad. So really impressive broad, kind of an average vertical, good speed. And he's 6'4", 206. So good size, good speed. He's, all around, he's an athlete that looks like you'd want to have him on your team, right?
Yeah, I think all the testing, the size, the speed, the production, like, everything shows him as being a Packers type. Like, he's a Packers type receiver all day. They're not scared of drafting non-power 4 receivers. They've done that. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs came from Nevada, non-power 4. Going back to James Jones, Greg Jennings, they've done it. MVS. So some positions they want, or at least they seem to want, guys that are from big conferences, Big Ten, SEC, ACC. Receiver's not one of those positions. They don't really seem to care that much about where they're drafted, but they want to see some college production. And, the testing numbers matter a lot at receiver. Ted Hurst checks all the boxes for that for Green Bay. Like, he checks every box. The production was there, consistent production. He wasn't a one-hit wonder, one-year wonder, or anything like that. He has deep speed. He's shown he can beat press coverage. He's really good on comeback routes. He's able to, snap them off and get separation and get open. He's got run after catch ability. I think he needs to use his size more. Didn't do a whole lot of run blocking. To me, that's not hugely important, but it's something that LaFleur and his offense, they really like receivers that can block. He doesn't have a whole lot of that. And it's just, consistency with his routes and being able to run a fuller route tree. But I think, that's something every receiver that we talked about tonight, it's college game is not the NFL game where they're going to be asked to run a full route tree from, all these different alignments like the NFL is. So it's going to be something he has to get better at and develop at. But I like him a lot. I'm seeing some, mock drafts that have him at 52. I think that's a little early, but definitely in the third round. I'm all on board if they took him in the third round. 52, I wouldn't hate it, but I would definitely question it a little bit. I don't know if that's a good spot. I think the value is not quite there. I don't think he's necessarily a second round guy, but from the third round on, I'm on board with it. I think there's some similarities. Sometimes I see him on film and he does look a little bit like Romeo Doubs, but different. But I do see a little bit of that in his game. But yeah, he screams Packer to me. Like he's definitely, I would be shocked if he's not one of the guys at that position on their board and somebody that they really like, just because he checks all the boxes.
Yeah. My biggest issue with Hurst is that he disappeared in the big games. Well, I say big games. Their biggest games, right? So Ole Miss is their first game of the season. He didn't do well in that game. His best game was against Murray State. So it's just kind of, Vanderbilt, he didn't have much to say there. JMU, James Madison didn't play well there. So to me, I kind of look at it like, all right, well, where did you perform well against the higher? Now he did well again in the Senior Bowl, didn't he?
Yes, and they love Senior Bowl guys too.
Right. So that's where his performance of the Senior Bowl may, negate some of what I'm saying here. But that's my biggest knock on. When you see him, the plays that he makes, yeah, he's an explosive athlete, a lot of fun to watch. But you're also going like, yeah, but is he playing against high schoolers? Like, who's the competition here?
Sure.
So I'd like to go back and maybe look at more of his Senior Bowl stuff and see how he did against some of the better DBs at the Senior Bowl. I know I remember seeing a few, at least one, where I was like, oh, I'd never heard of this guy, but that was good. And I know there was another a Division III receiver there. I think it was Kyron Montgomery, and he did really well at the Senior Bowl. So yeah, Ted Hurst is one. I definitely would not want to see him drafted in the second round. I don't think he will be. I think the lack of production against, bigger competition will keep him out of the second round. He also had 7 drops last season, which is a 9% drop rate. It's not great. It's definitely the highest of the guys that I looked at. So yeah, I think he's rough around the edges. I think he's one of those guys that if you're getting him on day 3, maybe in like the 5th round, that's some value right there. That's a great value pick. Nothing wrong with that at all. But yeah, it kind of goes back to one of the other things I said earlier when we were talking about trades. It's like, look, if the Packers have said that he's our guy, I trust them. They've been very good at scouting receivers and evaluating receivers. So I couldn't argue with it, wherever they took him. I have bigger questions about him than I do the other guys. You know what I mean? So there's other guys I think I'd rather have before I'd want Ted Hurst. But yeah,
I like him a lot, but we can differ on that one. So let me just run through because I know we got to get the tight ends too. And
yeah, hit me with a few
on receivers.
What do you got?
Yeah, so day 3 guy all the way, Josh Cameron from Baylor. He's got size and speed. I think he's like 6'1", 220. Size and strength to win on fade routes, back shoulder. He's got good hands. He's got some run after catch ability. Tough guy to tackle just because of the way he's built. I think he would be a really good blocker for you. I think he could do some dirty work. He even has punt return experience, which could be valuable. I know they just signed Sky Moore, but in case Sky Moore doesn't work out, you got another guy who's done it for multiple seasons in college and had some production at Baylor doing it. He's got a long way to go. He's going to be a day 3 guy, so he's going to need a lot of development, and he needs a lot of route running development. And he doesn't have a ton of burst, so I don't think he's a guy that's going to separate real easily or separate a lot. But he's gonna have to go over the middle, dig routes, slants, stuff like that, and win and take a hit, and hopefully get through the hit and give you some yak yardage. But he's a nice physical, depth receiver, a guy that can be a number 3 or number 4 for you and do some of the dirty work there. Another guy, J. Michael Sturdivant. So this is a bet on traits guy. Like size and speed testing. He's shown the ability to get deep. He's shown some run after catch ability, ball skills, and ball skills as well. But he was on like 3 colleges, was never highly productive, but didn't have the quarterbacks throwing to him or great offenses, so that factors into it. But he's a bet on traits, and the Packers sometimes like those traits guys, and he's going to be a day 3 pick. Like if you get him in the 6th round or something like that, you're just throwing darts at the wall. He could be that dart you throw at the wall, just trying to hit on it because he's got the athletic ability and the size. It's just like, will he be able to ever put it together? And he may very well not be, but he's just one of those guys. Like you look at it and you're like, okay, he's an athlete, and he's got the ability to win down the field and to go up and get the ball. So we're going to bet on that and see if we can develop it. The route running needs work, and he didn't have a ton of production. So that, those are questions, but if you're going to bet on a guy and take a shot, he might be one that you want to take a shot on just because all the ability is there, all the talent is there. It's just a matter of, can you put it together and get the best out of them? And then another one, I find him interesting. I'm not sure how much I like him, but I think the Packers may have some interest in him, and that's Chris Brazell from Tennessee. It's weird because a lot of these Tennessee receivers get the NFL and don't have a ton of production. It's a weird offense that they run there. They don't run a whole lot of routes. A lot of times it's just run straight down the field. But they seem to last season vary it a little bit more. Not a lot. It's going to be a huge jump for him to learn an NFL offense and to learn all the different positions that you have to play as a receiver, unless the team gets him and just sticks him in one spot, which maybe they will. But I think at some point he's going to have to be able to learn more than that. It's going to take time to develop him, but again, size, speed guy, can win deep, can go up and get the ball. He's tall. He's got some body control. But, can he run a route tree? Can he beat NFL cornerbacks, beat press coverage? Can he, he's just okay after the catch. But I think he's got the testing ability. He's got the size where he could be better after the catch. It's just a matter of, there's a lot of development. I think he's probably going to go in the 2nd round. I don't know if I would really like the Packers taking him there, but if, somehow he's on the board there in the 3rd round, he might be a guy you want to bet on that, because it's all there for him. It's going to take some time, but they don't need him to come in and be the guy right away. So they have some time to develop him. And he has those traits. He has the ability, but it's going to be a lot of development time with him. Just found him interesting.
Yeah, he is. He is interesting. I saw a little bit of him. I didn't get to watch much of his game film. But yeah, I mean, 6'5", 200. Now it's kind of a slender 6'5".
Yeah.
Especially when you just talk about the other guy from Baylor, Cameron, 6'1", 225. So 25 pounds heavier, 4 inches shorter. You think about the difference in body types there. I personally think I'd rather have the 6'1", 225 Josh Cameron. For comp, that's like an AJ Brown type body. Like that's, I'm sitting here, I'm being kind of repetitive. Like I like that bully ball kind of guy. Like I like that running back in the receiving unit type of guy. And I think that can make DB's days a little harder. Having to tackle a dude who's going to punish you when you tackle him is tough. Like that's a psychologically long day. and trying to cover other guys while you're doing that. It's a tough day. So yeah, those are all very interesting guys. And obviously we couldn't touch on all of them. There's several on here that, and Dazon Stribling from Mississippi, I know is one that's been getting more popular lately.
He's another one because he checks a lot of the boxes for Packers types too, as far as testing, size, speed, all that stuff. He checks them all too. It's just he comes from another offense that doesn't translate a whole lot to the NFL. But if you can get him, I've seen him anywhere from like 3rd to 5th round, and I think that makes a lot of sense for him. Especially if you can get him in the 4th or 5th round, great value there. But yeah, he's got another guy that can run away from. He's run away from college corners. Can he do it in the NFL? But he looks like he's got the athletic ability to be able to do that.
Yeah, no doubt. And so there's a lot of guys here. These are just a few. I think that and I agree with all the ones that you pointed out, Tim, that we believe the Packers probably have an eye on and will have within reach and could go with, and they could be legitimate contributors to this offense next season. So I know we're deep into the podcast. We're going to go ahead and fly over the tight ends real quick because we don't have a whole lot of time before the draft.
We got to get here.
We got to get all these positions in, and we procrastinated a little bit. So apologize, guys, but here we are. If
there's a lot of Packers news that we had to get to before.
There was, damn it. And the other thing is, if this is getting too long, just hit pause, come back to it tomorrow, listen to Packers talk, every day if you need to. We got all sorts of stuff coming out anyway. You can listen to us all the time. So yeah, let's talk tight ends here for just a second, Tim. Why don't you kick us off with kind of your flyover here?
Yeah, so just like a Packers outlook too, real quick. It doesn't seem like it's a position in need. Tucker Kraft, they want to re-sign him. I think they will. But until that's finalized, he's not under contract past 2026. Musgrave's been a disappointment. His contract is also going to be up, and I don't think there's any reason or desire for the Packers to extend him unless something drastically changes in 2026. And then after that, there's not much there. Josh Wiley, who came up after Kraft was injured, came up from the practice squad. He did show some things. I think he's a nice number 3 tight end, and they brought him back. Fitzpatrick was the other tight end, but he tore his Achilles late in the season, so he's still a free agent. Maybe at some point they bring him back, but those are bottom of the tight end depth chart guys, number 3 tight ends. Nothing wrong with that, but wouldn't be surprised at all if they come out of this draft, especially on the 3rd day, and take a tight end, just build up that depth, because it looks like they're gonna keep Kraft, but they'll be moving on from Musgrave, so you got to build up the depth. Guy I really like, who I didn't know anything about until the combine, Sam Roush from Stanford. He tested through the roof at the combine. Opened my eyes to him. Stanford's not a pass-heavy offense, so he didn't put up eye-popping numbers or anything close to eye-popping numbers, but he's got the size. He tested great, and he tested great at 260-plus pounds at tight end. He was like an extra offensive lineman for him, run blocked a lot. I think that would be a great thing for the Packers to have, and I think it's shown in Matt LaFleur's offense that tight ends that have that blocking ability work a lot better than a pure pass catcher like Musgrave. So yeah, I really like Roush. I think he would fit extremely well for the Packers just because of his size, his athletic ability. I think he's got untapped potential as a receiver, and I think he's going to be a very good blocking tight end in the NFL. I like him a lot. If you're looking for more of a pass catcher, Max Clare from Ohio State. I don't know how much blocking you're going to get out of him, but it might be something that he can work on and develop over time to at least be adequate, but he's more of a receiving tight end. I'll just fly through some other names. Khalil Dinkins, I saw him at Penn State. Very underutilized. Now they had some other tight ends there over time, like Tyler Warren. But he always kind of would flash, and they just wouldn't go to him, wouldn't get him the ball. Certainly big enough. He has athletic ability. It was just, maybe it's the offense at Penn State, which very well could have been that. I think he's got untapped potential. Worth a shot, maybe, to look at him on day 3. Dallin Bentley from Utah had a really nice year last season with Utah. They've developed some tight ends over the years there. I think he's got the combination to be a pass catcher and a blocker, which in this class and most classes now at tight ends, there's a lot more of guys that have just shown the ability to be receivers and not that blocking ability. But Bentley's got it both, kind of like Roush does as well. Oscar Delp, he's a little undersized, but I think he's from Georgia. He's a little undersized, pass catching ability. Going to have to work on the blocking, not great, but I think he will be able to do it over time. Not a ton of production, but I think that's more of a product of Georgia's offense. He wasn't Brock Bowers there, but Brock Bowers is a special tight end. Delp's not that kind of guy, but I think over time he can develop and be a real solid number 2. Eli Raridan from Notre Dame, I think again he's more in that Bentley realm of tight end where they're going to be able to block, give you a little receiving as well, kind of an all-around tight end. I like those guys more. And then a small school guy from Wyoming, John Michael Gellenborg. Pretty cool name. Went to Wyoming. He was underutilized there. They don't throw the ball a whole lot. He was more of a blocking guy. Definitely a day 3 player, but he's got that potential, and I think he's got the ability to block and maybe some untapped ability as a pass catcher as well. But going to need a lot of development, but worth a shot late into day 3, I think. So I think there's some solid tight ends. I think what the Packers are going to look for is just somebody that can give them blocking and pass catching as well. I think they're going to steer clear of just a pure receiving tight end like what Musgrave was, because it never worked with him. Not saying they won't ever go that route again, but I just think in their offense and what we've seen in the NFL within the last couple of years, teams going to more 12 personnel, I think they're going to want somebody that can give you the ability to have that blocking element and then receiving as well. So look for those kind of combo tight ends.
Yeah, I agree with that. And even if you look at the guys that they've had outside of Musgrave at tight end, they've been bigger guys. I can't remember their names even off the top of my head right now, but I could see them. I know one of them was like 6'7". So they've preferred bigger guys at tight end outside of Tucker Kraft and Musgrave. And obviously, we've already talked about what's gone on with Musgrave. So no need to continue that, but I agree. Yeah, I think some of these bigger body guys would be interesting. And as much as I get excited about like an Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, who's just a shade off of being like a Megatron level athlete, I just don't think the Packers are in that mindset at that position right now. I think they look at it like, yeah, we got a lot of freak athletes in the receiver room. We need some bodyguards at tight end. You need some big bully dudes that can block, but they can also get the ball in their hand and barrel down the field like Tucker Kraft. So as much as I would love to see an Eli Stowers, and we talked about him a little bit before after the combine, I don't know that that's quite in line with what they're looking at as much as like a Sam Roush, who very impressive. Got his ROS pulled up over here. He's got the 9.99. He's like the most athletic tight end almost ever. So he's at 6'6", 267 officially, so almost 270. 38.5-inch vertical is just wild for a near 270-pound human. And ran a 4.7 with a 1.61 10-yard split. Dude's a freak. Yeah, he's not top speed freak. He's not running in the 4.4s like some of these other freaks are. But I mean, he's up there, man. He, as far as quality and relativity goes and athleticism, he's a freak, man. So he is one that would be a lot of fun. You could get him out in there to help you with blocking and to be a little bit more of a bully with his size, but he's also got the ability to get out there and be a problem in coverage. So that one would be a lot of fun to see added to this offense.
Yeah, he tested like a guy who's 20 pounds lighter. This is 260 plus testing like that. That's what really is impressive to me. Like Kenyon Sadiq is the top tight end. I don't even know if he tested or what his testing numbers were, but you can just watch him and he's a freak athlete. And I bet Roush's numbers were very similar. Roush is 20 pounds heavier than Sadiq, or close to 20 pounds heavier than him. So yeah, really impressive. And he was an excellent blocker.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up Sadiq's because Sadiq did have impressive numbers, but again, I think he's like 6'3", 240.
He's like
6'3", 245. Yeah, so I mean,
go.
he's definitely closer to that receiver size. 245. He's 20 pounds heavy, or 20 pounds lighter than Roush. And his, so his Ross was a 9'4", His size definitely gets him. He's an undersized guy, but he had a 43.5-inch vertical, which is just out of the building, and a 4'3", 940. So yeah, for tight ends, I think that's the fastest. Yeah, it is. That's the 10 spot. So Sadiq, very fast, right? But again, you have receivers that are that fast. So how much does it pay to have a tight end that's that fast? Now, a guy that's that fast at 245, I get it. That could be a very big problem. That's why he's going to go early in the draft. But we're also talking about, kind of, so both of them are kind of unicorn level athletes. It's just different in what they're excelling at right now. Roush definitely, to me, fits what the Packers could use better than even a Sadiq does. Again, it'd be fun, sure, to add a guy like a Sadiq or a Stowers. They're both kind of cut from a similar cloth. I just don't think that's what the Packers are looking for, because they're looking at it like, a pass catcher arsenal as a whole. We got Christian Watson, we got Matthew Golden, we've got some super freak athletes out there. I think if you can add a big bully, a 6'6", 270-pound dude that can run around too, that to me sounds more dangerous. So that's just kind of where I stand on that. So I think we can both agree that we're big Sam Roush fans.
Yes. Yeah. He'd be one of my guys.
For sure. No, I'm let's see here. So that you got through your tight end list then, right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, you went through. You got Raritan. Raritan's another one. He's like 6'7" too, isn't he? He's 6'7", 250. So he's tall and a little bit skinnier than a Roush. But yeah, he's one that I watched a little bit of his film. I like him. I like Raritan a lot. He seems like a reliable option. Seems kind of like what you wish Musgrave was, like a good compliment to Tucker Kraft, but actually stays on his feet. No, I think he would be an excellent add on day 3, and there's going to be some options at tight end this year that you didn't have even last year. This is not the same as the receiver room, where I can't remember the last time you had a class of receivers where you're like, this isn't a great class of receivers. With the tight ends last year, it wasn't a great class of tight ends. This year's pretty good. It's deep, man. I mean, the top's not as sensational as it's been in the past, but the depth of this tight end class it's definitely impressive.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you're going to get I think it's deeper on like day 3. There's not a whole lot that I would do in rounds 1 or 2. It's like Sadiq in round 1. And then after that, I think there's a gap. But getting the 3rd round, okay, there's probably some guys there that I would do. And then definitely on day 3, I think there's a bunch of tight ends that are interesting.
Absolutely. So, all right, man. So pass catchers, I think we have sufficiently, wrapped up the prospects here. Now, again, we haven't exhausted them. We didn't talk about everybody, but we talked about the guys that are our kind of favorite Packers targets that should be within reach for the Packers, that fit the Packers mold. And hopefully on draft day, they're calling some of these names. We're already excited about them and familiar with them. But a lot of names here to be excited about, and I think it can be easy to maybe convince yourself like, oh man, the day 3 of the draft, you're just getting kind of some death pieces. You're not getting anything exciting. Man, day 3 of the draft is going to be an exciting day this year. I really believe that. I think that, round 4, 5, 6, 7, that's where you start tapering off and maybe lose some attention. But round 4, 5, and 6 should really find some serious talent there. There should still be some good options across the positions for the Packers to add. So I'm going to have my eyes peeled all the way through. I am a bit of a draft nerd, obviously, but there's reasons to be excited about these guys that we're talking about, not just first round picks that everybody wants to get all twisted up because we don't have a first round pick because we got Micah freaking Parsons. Duh. So just kind of throwing that reminder out there for you guys. I'd much rather have Micah Parsons than a first round pick right now. I don't know about you, Tim.
Absolutely.
So
there's no first round pick that they were going to take that's going to beat Micah Parsons.
Not a soul, not in this draft, not happening. In fact, it's interesting because it starts good. I would say after the top 10 of the first round, you're losing some quality, and then early second round relative quality, I think, goes back up. Like this is a good time not to have that 20th pick for the Packers. It really is. I don't think that that's something that is going to be a huge miss for them. Certainly having Micah Parsons is a big gain, no doubt about that. So yeah, all right. Next week, Tim, what positions are we hitting?
We're in the trenches. So we got the O-line, D-line, edge rushers, all those guys up front. And there are a lot of guys to talk about. We're going to have to narrow our list now.
Boys. But bring your coffee,
guys.
Friends. We might have another hour and a half podcast. Close your ears, Al. Don't listen.
No, listen, Al. Encourage everybody. Listen and encourage everybody else to listen, Al. Just don't worry about the length. There's some really good ones, and we're going to get into them next week. We're narrowing our list down a little bit, though, next week, so nobody's freaking out.
And I see CB flying around in the chat. We're going to get to the CBs. Don't worry, guys. We're building up to that.
Yes.
Got to have the most exciting part for last. But the trenches are going to be fun. There's a lot of value in the trenches. The Packers need value in the trenches. And, if there's fire to the smoke that we see, maybe they add to the trenches before the draft. Who knows? We're going to find out. But hey, if you guys been hanging with us this long, we're over an hour and a half into the podcast and have gone too long. That's all right, because we've gotten a lot of draft prospects to talk about. We're having fun nerding out on this thing, and hopefully you're still hanging with us. Spike that like button for us. If you love the Pack Weekly Pod, tell a friend. Let's meet some new Packer fans. Bring them on by. Let's hang out, talk some Pack, and learn some things. Most importantly, jump on over to the YouTube channel, type in Packers Talk Network, hit subscribe for us, hit that little bell next to it so that you get notified when we start streaming live and talking Pack. And of course, we will be back next Monday night, 9:30 p.m. Central, talking trenches for draft prospects here. So O-line, D-line, both sides, and of course any new Packers news that we might have. Maybe we will have a trade to talk about next week. That would be kind of cool. But come on back, friends. We'll see you next week. And as always, go Pack.